Hi, what's up guys? Before we get into the video, I just wanted to give credit to Alex O'Connor's video called I Made ChatGPT Believe in God. I just wanted to give credit because this is where the spark to research deeper onto this subject came from, and it's pretty much what sparked the interest in the subject of contingent reality for me. But also later on, or in the beginning of the video, I'm gonna say that I wrote all the stuff down on a computer because I wouldn't be able to write it, and that I wouldn't be able to remember it off the top of my head. But I hope you guys know this is still my writing and these are my ideas. I just wrote them down on the computer because I wouldn't be able to remember it off the top of my head, so I wrote it down so I could just read it and not miss any points or mess anything up. So there's that, just to clarify, but let's get into it. Alright, I'm going to try to explain to you guys why contingent reality demands a God real quick. And if it seems like I'm reading off my computer or something, it's because I am. I wrote it all down on my computer because there's no way I'm going to be able to remember this all by myself, but these are my own ideas. Alright, before we get into this, let me clearly explain why contingent things can't infinitely loop and need an eternal being. Contingent things are physical things, and they all point to something else as the reason it exists. Like a microphone would point to a human or a machine for its existence. It had just come out of nowhere. But if everything physical is contingent, then there has to be something non-contingent that explains why everything exists. If everything was explained by contingent things, it would be an infinite loop of A exists because of B, and B exists because of C, and it would go on forever. Think of it like an infinite link of chains in the air, each link supported by another link, but there's no hook or ceiling. The chain would still fall because no link had the power to hold itself up, right? Alright, now let's get into the introduction. Everything that exists can be placed into one of two categories. Number one, contingent things. Contingent things are things that exist but did not have to exist, like we said. They could have been different or not existed at all. Examples of that would include humans, planets, atoms, the universe itself. In fact, everything physical we experience is contingent. Each contingent thing depends on something else for its existence. For example, a microphone depends on raw materials, factories, machines, and peoples, and none of these things explain themselves, as they themselves are also contingent, like we said. And the second category something could fall into is a necessary thing. A necessary thing is something that must exist and cannot fail to exist. Its existence does not depend on anything else. It exists by its own nature. For example, 2 + 2 = 4 would be a necessary thing. Alright, let's get into the principle of sufficient reason. Philosophy often appeals to the principle of sufficient reason, which says if something exists, there must be an explanation or reason for why it exists rather than not exist. This does not mean we always know the explanation, but only that one exists. Alright, now explaining contingent reality as a whole. Consider all contingent things together, the entire universe, everything physical, every cause and effect chain. Even if the universe had no beginning, it would still be contingent because it could have been different and it did not have to exist at all. So now we ask a crucial question. What explains the existence of all contingent reality? The explanation cannot itself be contingent because then it would simply be a part of what needs explaining, right? And appealing to an infinite chain of contingent explanations does not solve the problem, it only postpones it. Even an infinite chain still wouldn't explain why the whole chain exists at all. The need for a necessary being is pretty much the explanation for contingent reality. So the explanation for contingent reality must be something that is not contingent itself, exists by its own nature, does not depend on anything else, and is not part of the physical universe because the whole physical universe itself is also contingent. So this leads to the conclusion that there must exist a necessary being that explains why contingent things exist. At this point, the necessary being, I mean, it's already kind of sounding like a god, but we'll go even deeper to further expand on my point that there is a god. Why this necessary being must have a will. We can go even further by considering the beginning of the universe. Modern cosmology strongly suggests that the universe began at a specific moment, often associated with the Big Bang, which was 13.8 million years ago, allegedly. But here's the key issue. If a necessary being exists eternally and its causal conditions were always present, then why didn't the universe exist eternally as well? If the necessary being caused the universe automatically by necessity rather than by choice, then the universe should have existed forever. but the universe appears to have begun at a specific time. So something must explain why the universe began when it did rather than earlier, going back to the sufficient reason. And here's why will solves that problem. The best explanation is that the necessary being that we are speaking about has a will as well. A will does not act automatically. A being with a will can exist without acting, choose when to act, bring about a new effect without being forced by prior conditions. And this allows the following to be true without contradiction. The necessary being exists eternally, and the universe begins at a specific time because the necessary being has a will. If the necessary being lacked a will, we'd face a contradiction because an eternal cause that works automatically should produce an eternal effect, but the universe is not eternal. And a will resolves that problem completely. So what we've come to now is putting everything together. We have we arrive at a being that exists necessarily, explains why contingent reality exists at all, exists outside the physical universe, is eternal, has a will, and freely brings the universe into existence. And this description of, once again, an eternal necessary being with a will to create the universe at a certain time, I mean, what would we give a name for something like that? I would believe God. Alright guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope this made sense to you, and I hope I was able to explain it well enough for you guys to understand. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll try my best to respond. And yeah, if anyone has any opinions or different perspectives on this subject, I'd love to hear it. And if anyone wants to challenge it, feel free. I'd love to have someone play devil's advocate and share an opinion that disagrees with it. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.